I would like to welcome everyone to my channel. My name is Dorota Puzio and this is My Planet TV. And my guest for today is Jerzy Zięba, the author of a book, Hidden Therapies. Welcome to my channel and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So you wrote the book Hidden Therapies, which is called What Your Doctors Won't Tell You. And this is a guide for patients, for parents, for doctors, and for all of those who are interested in staying healthy. So what you did in this book is that you collected the knowledge of experts in their fields of expertise, people who devoted many times their lifetime careers studying particular subjects, such as the importance of vitamin C or vitamin D, and you talk about the stomach acidity, you talk about the importance of drinking water for our body, you talk about cholesterol and many different things. But what you stress many times in your seminars, in your talks, is that people come to you and they ask, well, how to treat this or how to treat that. But what you did in your book is you described what our body needs in order to stay healthy. So I would like to start from that. What is the thing that our body needs, or the things that our body needs, so that we don't get sick?
Maybe we should ask ourselves, why do we get sick? And then we find an answer. We get sick because of three reasons. One reason is that our body needs some natural substances which are natural to our body. For instance, vitamins and minerals, the proper types of amino acids and so on. The second reason for getting sick is not what we should have in our body, but what we have already. That means all the toxins and heavy metals and what have you. The third reason why we get sick is, that is something that is not widely discussed at the moment. A lot of scientists are very, very seriously looking into it, and they're running a very, very promising and serious research. But this is our emotional state, our psychology, our spirituality. This is the third reason why we get sick. This book you held in your hand is the first part. In this book, I didn't describe anything how to treat a specific disease, because that was not my intention. That will be in part 3, when it comes to it. But in this book, I included, as you said rightly so, quite a lot of information on issues that are in the space of medical science, but nobody knows about it. Or it is not widely publicized for whatever reason. That's why I called it Hidden Therapies. And in this book, yes, I did say about vitamin C, but everybody heard about vitamin C. Every doctor knows about vitamin C, but not all doctors know the full story behind vitamin C, because a lot of times, or mostly, we, as well as doctors, treat vitamin C as something that when someone has an infection, we give them 500 milligrams or 200 milligrams to treat that infection or to help to treat that infection. While vitamin C has such an incredible potential to help cure so many health problems. But unfortunately, this is not taught at medical schools at all. Although information exists and the research is tremendous, and that's why I decided to reveal, if you like, that side of vitamin C, which is not widely known at all. Medical students don't know anything about this side of vitamin C that I had described in this book. The same applies to, say, vitamin D. There is a lot of controversies about vitamin D because it's been promulgated for a long time, years, that vitamin C is a vitamin that you give to newborn or to elderly people who are this is a part of population that has a risk of having osteoporosis. While again, vitamin D3 has such properties that have nothing to do with elderlies. Obviously, it does that too, but it has to do a lot with prevention of many chronic diseases. American epidemiologists, Frank and Cedric Garland, they did studies over many years. That in the studies they proved that if the level of vitamin D, that metabolite called 25-OH, is at a level of around 50 nanograms per milliliter plus, then probability of becoming sick with cancer drops by 50 to 75% only because of that vitamin D. Who knows about it? Who is doing anything about it? We know that cancer now is the leading cause of death in the world. Heart attacks were the leading cause until about 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now is cancer, and it's getting worse. So what do? We know that the vitamin D3 is a very strong protector. Its mechanism of action is very complex. But we know that vitamin D3 is the main substance, I would say, in the nature that can protect us from cancer. So why don't we talk about it? Why medical schools are not teaching about it? Why all these silly strategies that come out from time to time as a big revelation that we have a strategy against cancer, they don't include vitamin D3 proper level. So I decided to reveal it, and that's what I wrote. The same applies to vitamin K2, MK7 version mostly, because it's in MK4 as well. When I found out what vitamin K2 does in terms of protecting our health, because like every vitamin, vitamin K2 is acting on our entire body. It is not a substance that is that is created by pharmaceutical industry that is specifically targeting specific enzyme or blocking a specific receptors. Vitamin K2, like vitamin C, like vitamin D3, is acting on entire body. And when I found out what it can do and what it does actually, I was flabbergasted that nobody knows about it. Now, doctors know about vitamin D3 a little bit. They know about vitamin C a little bit, but they don't know anything about vitamin K2, because as with in case of D3 or vitamin C, they are taught at medical schools about at least part of the actions, the way they work in our body. About vitamin K2, they don't know anything because nobody tells them anything about vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is as essential to protecting our health as the other vitamins. Question: why medical schools don't teach medical students anything at all?
Yes, but you organize seminars where thousands of people come, and I know that doctors come there as well, and medical students as well. And well, when it comes to doctors, as happy as we are when there is an emergency, or there is a dramatic situation concerning life-saving situation, emergency operation, as happy as we are when the doctors are around, when it comes to chronic diseases, the medical system fails tremendously. So, well, my question is, because you talk about the treatment and and curing, in fact, chronic diseases, you talk about it in your book, the diseases that are classified as incurable by medical system.
Yeah, that's right. Very often in I would say, at any lecture that I run, I always say that medically trained doctors That means medically trained as now we understand medical schools. They represent, I call it, academic type of medicine. They are tremendously effective in acute cases. If someone suffers from heart attack or stroke or takes a part in accident, we break a leg, what do we do? Emergency. Then you go quickly to hospital, and they, I must say, perform miracles. Really, they're fantastic. We often also criticize pharmaceutical industry, but I must say that pharmaceutical industry, together with academically trained doctors, saved, and they are saving, and they will be saving millions of lives in acute cases. But in chronic cases, in chronic diseases, the academic medicine is not only failing, the effectiveness is zero. Maybe it is a far-going statement, but when one thinks about this effectiveness, we can still see chronic diseases. We can still see incurable diseases. What does it mean? Effectiveness is zero. What happens in this area is only management of symptoms, nothing else. Because have you ever seen a person who, for instance, was cured from psoriasis using standard medical treatment? No. Have you ever seen a person cured from osteoarthritis or osteoporosis? And the classical thing is, have you ever seen a person who had problems with clots in the arteries caused by not by cholesterol, but that is something that is life-threatening. We are dying from heart attacks because of that, because of the deposits, mostly calcium, in our arteries. Have you ever seen one person who had been treated successfully? That means where the atherosclerotic deposits were removed. Have you seen a person like that? No. I never. That's right. So in that sort of cases, something that they called naturopathy, or we can call it anyway, alternative treatments, whatever. If you know what to do, if you apply certain substances, you can reverse that process of atherosclerosis. And that happens time and time again, all the time, providing that you have some time. In acute cases, you don't have time. You have to act really quickly, and that's what they do, and they do it very, very well. But when it comes to chronic diseases, like I said, have you ever seen a person cured by medical doctors from diabetes? No. It's curable. Have you ever seen a person with, let's say, Hashimoto disease cured by medical doctors? No, because it's incurable disease.
You know, it's really, for me, it's scary. If I have a friend, she's my age, and she has high blood pressure medication. She has, Hashimoto disease medication. And she's told she'll be medicated to the end of her life because there is no way out. Right. So this is scary for me.
It is scary because why it happens like that? It happens because it will go forever. And it will go forever. It will never end until the medical, I would say, medical world realizes that, as we said at the beginning, we get sick with chronic diseases because our body lacks natural substances. Chronic disease would be curable only when we replace those natural substances. But one has to be completely ignorant or naive, like a child, believing that these natural substances that our body needs can be replaced, but by what the pharmaceutical industry is creating as a completely synthetic substance that will never work. And it doesn't work, and it never will.
Because it doesn't work on the cause, it works on the symptom.
Mostly so. That's one thing, but also if we think that we are lacking a substance and we are replacing that substance with something that is synthetic, that is something not natural, it will never work. I give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
The good example are hormones.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to a doctor and he prescribes you a hormone replacement therapy, a long time ago it was applying only to older women who went through menopause. Now, unfortunately, the disturbance to hormonal system often happens in women your age. So then a woman like that goes to a medical doctor and he says, oh, you have a low level of this hormone, and I give you a prescription for this hormone.
Mm-hmm.
So when the doctor gives you a prescription for the hormone to replace the lacking hormone in your body, I can tell you 100%, this, what he is describing or prescribing to you, is not a hormone. Why? Because natural hormones are in nature, mostly in plants. But extracting these hormones is this is not money-making business, because the natural hormone is a substance that cannot be patented.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if, let's say for argument's sake, a natural hormone in the molecular structure looks like this and like that, they cannot patent that natural hormone because it's nature. So they add a little bit of some sort of a protein or something, so that structure looks like this, and a little bit like that. So this is not a hormone anymore. It is a substance created by pharmaceutical industry that in your body creates effect like a hormone, but this is not a hormone.
So it doesn't fix anything.
No,
It just pretends.
Pretends, yes. That's why what happens is when that type of substance gets into your body, it creates a lot of side effects because it's not natural.
Yeah.
When you look at two hormones like estrogen and, say, testosterone, they are very, very similar. Very similar. But there is a tiny difference between one and the other. What does it mean? It means that if there is more estrogen in these first developing cells in the newborn baby that is just dividing its cells, it will become a girl. But if there will be more testosterone in that cell, it will become a boy. But the difference, molecular difference between estrogen and testosterone is very small. You see? So such a small changes have a tremendous effect on you and me. That's why I'm a man, you're a woman. Yeah. Artificial hormones, synthetic hormones, pretend to be hormones, but they are not hormones.
So what does it mean for us? For me, for example, if I take the synthetic hormones, what does it mean to my body? What can it do to my body?
It will pretend estrogen or whatever hormone it's supposed to be, but it is not natural hormone, therefore your body will react to it. It will create effects of that hormone, but your body will react to it, and that's why many years ago, when this hormone replacement therapy in women was so popular, then suddenly was more breast cancers, there were more chronic diseases in these women, and as we know, that's why they stopped doing that, a much higher rate of heart attacks because of that. Now,
So side effects, in other words.
the side effects. So that's why it is so important to replace what we need with the natural substances, not with synthetic. I gave you the example only of a hormone being estrogen and testosterone, but any other substance that we need, if it doesn't come from nature, if it comes from the pharmaceutical industry, it will pretend to be that substance, but it will never replace that substance that should be from nature. That's why this type of substances we should take from food.
Okay. So let's talk about supplementation, because this is my next question. I was thinking about supplementation, and I was thinking about vitamin C. So when I was a child, I was born and raised in a village. There was 5 of us at home, and my parents were not educated about supplementation, obviously, and maybe they knew vitamin C. But what my mother did when we were sick, she used to collect what is called in Poland wild rose fruit, and she just cooked that in winter when we were sick, and she would give that to us. She would also give us the beetroot syrup and the onion syrup, and that was it. And
It worked.
Yes, and it worked. And my question is, but her parents, her grandmother told her what to do when you get sick, right? So my question is, if we stayed close to nature, if people stayed close to nature, would supplementation be needed?
I say this. I am very strongly against supplementation. I say that we should not supplement with anything. In our geographical position as we are, or location as we are in Poland, we should supplement with vitamin D3 and with vitamin K2 for different reasons. But really, we should not supplement ourselves with anything.
In theory.
In theory, obviously. Everything should come from our food, from clean water, from clean air. But we don't have clean air. We don't have clean water. We don't have food. We don't even. Sometimes we shouldn't even call it food. This is a poison. The source of vitamins, or let's say all substances natural, should come, I believe, from plants. So we should eat. It's a little bit of an old saying that we should eat a lot of veggies and we should eat a lot of fresh fruit and so on. This is true. I believe that we should eat also a little bit of meat, not much, but a little bit as well. And then we have a complete set of everything we need.
In the prospect of medicine progress, statistically, we still have more and more sick people, which is a paradox, right?
In chronic cases, yes.
In chronic cases. So, my belief is that it's also because we kind of left away from nature. This is my belief. But what you did in your book is you kind of changed our perspective on different things. For example, you changed my perspective on what we talked a bit about in the beginning, about the sun exposure, because we were told lies, right? We were told that the sun is bad for us, which is also, when you think about it, without the sun there wouldn't be life on Earth, right?
Right.
So this is a paradox. And why we were fed...
We're running away from life.
Yes, and we are running away from life and from sun, and we were fed lies that we should protect, we should cover with filters, and that the sun causes cancer. So what is really important in sun exposure and vitamin D production?
As I said, following the masters, the scientists who are masters of the subject, the most healthy sunlight is right in the middle of the day.
Exactly the opposite what we are told.
Exactly the opposite what we are told. Why? Because, as I said before, and I described in the book, vitamin D3 is an essential nutrient for us. And the best way to get the vitamin D3 is from the nature. And this nature is the sun. But the sun will produce vitamin D3 in our body only in certain time window. And that is right in noon, at the noon time. Not in the morning, not in the afternoon, at the noon time. Why? Because not many people know, and I really regret that at schools, children are not taught about it. Why? The most healthy time in terms of a sunshine is at noon, because the vitamin D3 is created in our skin by the sunlight, but not every fraction of the sunlight. The sunlight emits a whole spectrum of wavelengths, but only one, that is called UVB, is creating vitamin D3 in our body. UVC doesn't. It's very dangerous to us. It's filtered out, it's supposed to be filtered out high in the atmosphere by the ozone layer. And it's also UVA. UVA is that spectrum of sunlight that we see most of the time, but it doesn't produce even microgram of vitamin D3. When the sun rises and its rays are filtered through a very thick, I would say, depth or length of the atmosphere, it filters out completely UVB. But UVA comes to us all the time. But we don't have UVB. UVA could be very dangerous if we expose our body to too much UVA. And then the sun goes up, and then more and more comes UVB. And when it is at noon, there is UVA, but also UVB. And therefore, if we expose our skin to UVB light, to that fraction, or that's part of a spectrum, then we get produced in our body vitamin D3. And then when it crosses, say, 2 p.m., starts going down again to the sunset, the UVB is again filtered out by the atmosphere. So after, say, around 2 p.m., 3 p.m., there is no more UVB available from the sun rays. There's only UVA, nothing for us. So only in this time window between 11 and, say, 2 p.m., there is a time when this sunlight will create vitamin D in our body. So would you like to be exposed in the morning or in the afternoon to the sunlight, or at noon, when it actually protects your body in the way of producing vitamin D, protects your body from various diseases?
Including cancer.
Of course.
Which is the opposite what we were told. We were told that the sun causes cancer.
Yeah, because if you overexpose yourself to the sunshine and your skin is not prepared for that, then UVB also could be dangerous. So the proper way of using vitamin D as a sunlight is to irradiate our body, but not to burn the body. Yeah. So how to find out whether you are doing this in the right way? When you expose your body to sunlight at noon, let's say to 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes from the front, 10 minutes from the back, and then you cover yourself, and 24 hours later, that means the next day, there is nothing interesting in your skin. You can increase that time from, say, 10 minutes to 15 minutes. But when the 24 hours later, you see that your skin is pinkish, that's too much. Yeah, so you should expose your body or your children's bodies to sunlight right at noon, but for limited period of time. And now you were talking about sunscreens. Sometimes it's very difficult to explain to a child, cover yourself and dress up, put your hat on and so on. So when you have a child exposed or yourself, I would say irradiated with this vitamin D3, then you can put a sunscreen protection on you. It depends also what type, but there are sunscreens that are not very good for our body. But let's say that we have the right type of sunscreen or sunscreen cream. After irradiation, after exposure of 10-15 minutes, then you cover yourself, and then you can stay at the sunlight because it filters out all this UVA, which is not very good for us. So the researchers found out that a regular exposure to the sun, but at noon, will create such an amount of vitamin D in your body equivalent to very, very aggressive supplementation. So if you look at the metabolite 25OH, which is a measure of how much vitamin D we have stored in our body, because that's like a storage, that metabolite. It's not active, but it's like a storage. And then normally we should supplement with a certain dose of vitamin D3, let's say 4,000 units or 10,000 units. They found out that that type of exposure, as we're talking about, can create such an amount of vitamin D3 in our body, equivalent to supplementation of even 20,000 units. Okay. That's one thing. Another thing is also that there is a difference in vitamin D3 created in our body from supplementing and from the sunshine. There is a molecular difference, tiny, small, but there is. Like the vitamin D3, or vitamin D, I must say, because we supplement with D3, but then it is converted into 25OH, has a much longer half-life, the vitamin created by the sun. So that vitamin created by the sun stays, we can say, in our body longer than from supplements. That's again nature. Right?
It must be wise because the sun isn't out there the whole year. For example, in our geographical space, this must be wise.
It must be because, again, in our geographical location, as we are in Poland, between say October and even beginning of April, even at noon, there is no UVB. Therefore, in this window of time in the year between October and April, even if we exposed our body all the time, even if we exposed our body all the time to the sunshine, we will not produce one single unit of vitamin D. The same happens in Canada, because that depends on the location where we are. In Poland, it is like that. That's why I said that from this point of view, we should supplement.
You know what I was thinking once? In the summer, why don't we get sick in the summer?
Because of the sunshine. But that applies. The scientists look at that in terms of various diseases, and they found out that in areas close to the equator, there's much less certain types of diseases because of sunshine. Now, the question of cancer. Vitamin D3 or vitamin D protects us from skin cancer. It's a strong protector. As you know, many types of skin cancer don't appear in areas where are exposed to the sun, where they are not exposed to the sun. But vitamin D, having such a strong protection against cancer, acts also as a protector against skin cancer. providing that we don't overuse it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Also, that depends also on the color of our skin. It's important.
That's again nature.
That's again nature. That's why dark-skinned people or black-skinned people, when they go to climates with very little natural sunlight, that the direct sun, they get sick. The whole populations of black population in the United States, in the northern parts of United States, Chicago, Michigan, these areas, they get much more sick than black population in the Louisiana and Texas, Mexico. You can see that.
It's like with Scandinavian people, they have fair skin and they need less exposure to sun to produce the same amount of vitamin D, right?
That's why in Scandinavia we see people very fair skin. They have white skin because they have very little sunshine. So the nature created them in such a way. I sometimes jokingly say that such a Swede or Dane, he puts his head outside of the window because there is a sun today. He puts it like that, 5 minutes, and he's ready.
Yeah,
He's done.
Yeah.
But take him to Africa.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It's a problem.
Yeah, that's why take the Africans to Sweden. Not very good idea for them.
It's again living with connection to the nature, right? It's not a rocket science.
No, it's very simple.
Okay, about drinking water. You talk a lot about the importance of drinking water in your book, and is it possible that drinking water, proper quality water, increases our the effectiveness of our body on the healing process? Can it speed up the healing process?
I would say that drinking correct type of water, correct amount of water, absolutely necessary with salt. Yes, it will not only speed up the healing process, it will just heal it up. Because many years ago, Dr. Feridun Batmangalic, Iranian doctor, showed to the world that drinking water is so important as perhaps even the sun exposure, because he proved that in many cases, medical doctors confuse the disease with the dehydration of the body. That means a sick person may show symptoms of certain disease, while that person, I can't say he's not sick, he is thirsty. But to a medical doctor, he looks sick. Let's say that person has a problem with asthma. Mm-hmm. Asthma is a problem with the lungs. Mm-hmm. So the Dr. Batmangalic showed that if you hydrate your body correctly, or that person's body correctly, asthma goes away forever. What does it prove? It proves that that person really wasn't sick with asthma. That person was dehydrated. And he showed in many diseases that sort of relation of dehydration and chronic disease. That means he was curing a lot of chronic diseases with hydrating people. But you cannot hydrate the body correctly without salt. And then you have another story. Oh, what about salt? Yeah. And some people say, salt is bad because it stores or keeps the water in your body. That's right. That's how it should be. We are totally dehydrated. Therefore, if we add something that stops that water in our body, we will get hydrated back again. But it must not be ordinary salt. Yes. That's the key issue, because if you look at ordinary supermarket salt, there's nothing in it except just sodium chloride. And that's not the point. The point is that salt, which comes from the mines, which is full of all sorts of minerals trace elements, and so on. This is it. So that's why I don't call it salt. I say these are minerals with salt.
Okay, so we should hydrate. So what kind of water is, in your opinion, proper quality water?
That's a topic that we can talk till midnight. But first of all, it should be clean water. Where do we find a clean water? In our water supply? No. It's not.
Filters.
That's right. First of all, the water should be clean. There are a number of filtering systems, like reverse osmosis system and so on, which removes everything or almost everything. But then you're left with just clean water. That is not enough. The water is extremely complex, complicated substance. We don't even know now the true nature of water. We think that water is in 3 states, right? Liquid, gas, and solid, like ice. And the scientists are now finding more and more of these states of water, and really nobody knows how many of them. At least 5 we know now. But we often hear about so-called life water. What does it mean, life water? Life water, which is the best for us water, is like from Antarctic, from the ice.
Or from the wells that our grandmothers had, because it's from the ground.
Theoretically, yes. But because of chemicals that are sprayed all around the earth now, basically, you don't know what is in that well. 50 years ago, I would say, it's a well water from deep well, good. Now, maybe it is water that is not suitable for drinking at all. Sometimes people say, there is a spring water. Do you know what is in that spring now? You don't know. Sometimes we say that from waterfall. Yes, a waterfall can produce that live water. We will explain in a moment. I will explain that. But what is in that water that falls from the waterfall? So it gets more complicated. But this iceberg type of water, yes, this is a clean water. This is live. But what does it actually mean to have a live water? First of all, clean. Secondly, pH of that water should be above 7.5. It doesn't have to be water with pH 9 or 10 or whatever. It doesn't have to be. The water from the iceberg does not have pH 8 or 9. But important parameter is to have water with pH bigger than 7.5. If it is 8, it's okay. The second parameter is ORP. It's called oxidoreductive state. It is measured in millivolts. It comes that the higher pH, the lower ORP value. But in nature, that ORP, if it is minus 100 or less, that means minus 100, minus 150 millivolts, it's enough. So these basic parameters, apart from the fact that the water must be clean, pH and ORP value, these are 2 parameters that mostly people are talking about. But they don't indicate even that this is so-called live water. So what it is, in addition to these 2 parameters, the water must have a certain structure. If it is not structured water, it is not live. Must be structured. What does that mean? A lot of people who are interested in this subject know that structure means that if you take that water and you freeze it, and you have a way of making a photograph, then the crystals of such a structured water will look like snowflakes. If water is not structured, there will be no snowflakes. So this structure is of paramount importance. This is one of the most important parameters, although it's not the only one. Structured water is this type of water that can enter the cells. If the water is not structured, it will not enter the cells.
Why do we need water in cells?
Because if there is no water, we're dead.
Okay.
So
or we get sick.
If we have no water in cells, we're dead, or we have not enough water, we're sick, yes. But I believe in 2003, there was a Nobel Prize awarded to a scientist who showed the mechanism of entering water into the cells. So just recently, we didn't know how it works. He showed, and he received the Nobel Prize. But again, he showed that only structured water can enter the cell. The water that we normally drink is not structured. The water that we drink from the filters, it's not structured. Okay. So that water is completely useless to us. And if we drink a lot of that water, our kidneys will just reject it. It will go away. Because it's useless. Our body has ability to convert water into structured water. Otherwise, we would have died a long time ago. But it takes energy and it takes time. So the structure also is important from the point of view that healthy cells are surrounded by structured water. Sick cells are surrounded by not structured water. And therefore, bacteria and viruses and so on can enter the cells much easier through water that is not structured. I don't want to talk more about the structured water because it's a complex topic, because we then start talking about water memory. Okay. And so on, so we'll never finish that. But so the structured water is the third main parameter, pH or p-value, structured water. Some people know something about this structured water, and they understand it, but there's a fourth element where nobody, maybe not nobody, but generally we don't talk about it. But it is essential to make water a life water. That is information from the magnetic field of the earth. Mm-hmm. That information is essential. And that's why the water from the icebergs in the Antarctic or Arctic, water that is exposed all the time to magnetic field of the earth magnetic field, then if that water has that information, then altogether is a life water.
I'm thinking about all the research that you combined. It must have taken years for you to combine all the research. And this is what you do. You put in a very simple language things that many scientists work their lifetime careers to inquire. And so what you do, you give that information to simple people so that we could understand it. Maybe not necessarily understand it because these are complicated subjects, but you talk about things that are free. The sun is free. Maybe that's
right. The sun is free. Yeah. I just one step back. What we do in our life quite often is not natural for us. Yeah. So as we started our conversation, we go away from nature and we get sick, and then we think, why we get sick? Because we went too far away from the nature. And the reason why I wanted to step back is one thing that also makes us go away from the nature is to wear the sunglasses. These are not sunglasses, but our pituitary gland needs to have information from UV, in form of a UV light. Generally, from the sun, our pituitary gland has to have that information. And if we put the sunglasses, we just block it off. And that signal is extremely important for controlling all our body reactions and so on. Very complex problem, but we bring it down to very simple thing.
Yeah.
Don't wear the sunglasses.
That's interesting.
You
I
see.
haven't heard that.
No, that's right. But look what happens with children. Children go out in the sun and we put the sunglasses on them. Don't do it. We were not designed to wear the sunglasses. We were designed to get the signal from the sun. It's very important. So
we are all connected, right? We are connected to Earth because when there's no sun, we feel worse, right? We like in terms of our emotions. Everybody is happy when the sun comes out in the spring.
The sun produces vitamin D, and vitamin D is very strongly antidepressant. It's very strong antidepressant. That's why in Scandinavian countries, very far north, the workers in the companies, they stop for 1 hour or so in the middle of the day, and they go to a special chamber and they get irradiated with UVB, because otherwise they get depressed, they commit suicides, and so on. But this is creating again a bit of a sunshine for them in that chamber. So that's how important it is, and that's why Scandinavian countries realize how important is the sunlight. I remember when I lived in Australia, I worked for a British company. The general manager of that company was promoted to a head office in London. He didn't like it at all, but he was transferred. And after 8 months or so, he had 2 children, aged 3 and 5, something like that. And after 8 months, he came to Australia again, just for a short visit, because his wife was Polish and her parents lived in Sydney. And I remember like today, when we met him the following day when he had arrived, and he told us, he said, "This morning we observed something very strange." We said, "What?" He said, "Our children this morning, they woke up, went to the backyard. In Sydney was plenty of sunshine, and our 2 children went absolutely crazy. We have never seen our children behaving like that. They were so happy, running like," he said, 2 little idiots, because of sunshine. And he said, for the last 6 months in London, we had not had 1 single date with sunlight, with sunshine, right? So you see how children react. We do react like that. That's why when we go to countries with plenty of sunshine, we feel better.
Yeah, we don't get sick, we are happy.
That's right, yes. That's how it is important. But I want to come back again to that physiological issue, that we should not hide ourselves from sunshine, use it wisely, because it's a very great nature medicine, I would say. And also we should not block the sunshine from our eyes. Therefore, I always say, if you have a sunny day, go outside, take your glasses at least for half an hour or for an hour, and walk or just do something, whatever, but let that sunshine fall into your eyes. Don't block it away. You know, so because this is so important to our health, but nobody again is talking about it.
Yeah, maybe again because it's free. Okay.
If nature wanted us to be protected from, we would have sort of a, I don't know,
A mechanism somehow.
Sunglasses like this, but we don't.
I know that you're in the process of writing Hidden Therapies Part 3. What can we expect from the book? What will we be able to learn from it?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
But my initial idea was to write a book. So I wrote the book. I didn't have the smallest idea whether anybody would like to buy it.
1 million copies sold in Poland.
now we have in 4 or 5 languages. And then I started traveling. I started meeting with people, and we had meetings of 1,000, 1,500 people. And during those meetings, people were coming to me and asking questions. And at each meeting, there were medical doctors, which was a fantastic thing for me, because I'm not a doctor. And they were coming and they were asking me certain questions. Like, when are you going to write a second book? So they were specifically asking me what they would like me to write about in my second book. So we're just ordinary people, because in the first part, I just wrote something about vitamins, and that's it. So I thought, okay, maybe I should write the second book. So I started writing the second book. But the first part has about 84,000 words. So I started writing the second part thinking that when I reach about 84,000, I stop, right? Because it will be the same. And I started writing. My counter was showing me 160,000 words, and I thought I haven't started this yet. So I had a big problem, because the book was becoming thicker and thicker. And when I sort of mentioned about it, that the book will be big this time, women reacted immediately, and they said, no, cut it in half. We want your book, the second part, the same size like this one, because it fits very well into our handbags. Yeah. So I thought,
that's practical.
That's practical approach. That's one thing. The second thing, I had to take this into consideration, because women, most of the times, are the health guardians, angels in the families. Yeah. Men then don't care too much, but women do, and that's important. So if a woman is a minister of health in the family, I better listen to that. Yeah. So I cut that second part in half again. And in that second part, I was trying to write, or disclose rather, a lot of information that is not normally even in the public arena, in public domain at all.
Yet.
Yeah. And yet, it ended up 1/3 bigger than the first one. And I still feel that I haven't finished the second part. So now, in the third part, basically in the second part when I started, my idea was to put information that I talk at seminars. That means I wanted to address specific diseases, specific health issues, and so on. I wanted to have it in that second part. But because what people wanted me to write took so much, cholesterol, lower it or not. Statins, how do they work? Doctors, some doctors are so convinced that the statins are good that this is scary. This is really scary. What about these fats? Why? We were told that these animal fats are bad for us. Part of that I described with this in the first part. But then doctors were coming and asking me, so what is the real story